Okay, we'll be doing a bone lab review on the next several lecture posts, and I'm going to go right off of your lab list. So here we see the clavicle. Okay, so this is the right clavicle, here's left clavicle. Don't forget to reference things in anatomical position. Scapula, seeing an anterior view of the scapula, and here is a posterior view of scapula. We have a right and left. Okay, here's the humerus. Okay, we have a right and left humerus. Ulna. Okay, here's the ulna. It is on the pinky side, and here's the radius on the thumb side, also distinct by that radial head. Okay. The carpal bones are the wrist bones, so these are the carpals. Later we'll learn the specific name of the carpal bones. So carpals, metacarpals, these long bones here, metacarpals, and then your fingers are the phalanges. And then we name these the thumb side, which is here. The thumb is digit 1, digit 2, digit 3, digit 4, digit 5. You can also say phalanx 1, phalanx 2, phalanx 3, phalanx 4, and phalanx 5. Phalanx is singular, phalanges is plural. Femur. So this here is a posterior view of the femur. And there's anterior view of the femur. Patella, kneecap area, so we have a right and left patella. A fibula. So for slang, we'll call this tib fib. Okay, but don't write that on a test. Please write the full version, but you'll hear me say tib fib a lot. Just let you know what that means. So the big bone here is the tibia, and the little bone is the fibula. Okay, tibia, big bone, fibula is the smaller lateral bone. Okay, tarsals. So tarsals are all the small foot bones there. Let's do a lateral view. Okay, all of these are the tarsals. We'll learn each individual bone name later. Okay, so tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. And they're named the same way. The great toe, or the hallux, is digit 1, digit 2, digit 3, digit 4, digit 5. You could also say phalanx 1, phalanx 2, phalanx 3, 4, and 5. Okay, the ribs. So these are the ribs. It's the anterior view of the ribs. Now, if this looks funny to you, they've removed the costocartilage. So they removed the rib cartilage. You're seeing the sternum. So manubrium, sternal body, and xiphoid process. Here's a posterior view of the ribs. Okay, all these in here are the ribs. Okay, we do have true ribs. The true ribs, 1 through 7, actually articulate with the manubrium sternum. But in this one, you're not really seeing that because they removed the cartilage here. Now, if we go over here and add connective tissue, now you'll see the cartilage. So rib 1 through 7 are your true ribs, and the false ribs are 8 through 12. Okay, false ribs 8 through 12. And then the floating ribs you see here. Ribs 11 and 12 are floating ribs because at the distal end there is no connection to anything, no articulation. Okay, the vertebral discs are right here. So these guys, there's a disc and there's a disc. Those are the vertebral discs. Our vertebral column, okay, we do have, I'm going to take away the connective tissue here. The vertebral column, we have 7 cervical and then 12 thoracic, and we have 5 lumbar. And they are named top to bottom. So if you start up here in the cervical spine, this would be atlas or C1. There's axis or C2, C3, C4, C5, 6, and 7. Okay, then what you do is you start over with the thoracic spine, beginning with thoracic number 1 or T1. So T1, T2, T3, and then you're going to work all the way down to the last thoracic bone, which is thoracic number 12. And you know that because there's rib 12, the last floating rib, which articulates with thoracic 12. And then we have 5 lumbar, L1, L2, L3, L4, and L5, and then the sacrum. So on a test, I am going to ask you to name a region, like lumbar, thoracic, or cervical, and then what number. I'll give you the full skeleton, but the mistakes I've seen students make in the past is they'll do something like this. So if this one is marked, they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, you can't do that. Don't just count top to bottom without stopping. Okay, you have to do count your cervicals, 7 of them, top to bottom, superior to inferior, and then start over. Thoracic 1. Okay, there's rib 1. So this is thoracic 1. You have 12 pair of ribs, 12 thoracic bones, so you count all the way down T1 to T12, and then you start over with the lumbars, L1 all the way down to L5. Okay, if you go from bottom up, that's fine to count that way. You just have to make sure you do L5, L4, L3, L2, L1, and then start over T12, T11, and all the way up as you're counting up. And this would be C7, C6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you count top down or bottom up, just make sure you do it in order and by region. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar. And they're named counting superior to inferior. Okay, so here's the sacrum. There's the sacrum. Here's an anterior view of the sacrum. And the coccyx. That is the coccyx bone. Posterior view. Coccyx. Okay, the os coxa is the entire hip bone here. Now later we'll learn that the hip bone is made of 3 bones that come together to make this entire bone here. So it does have other names, the os coxa or coaxial bone. Sometimes you'll read innominate. Okay, this entire bone here, that is the os coxa. Right, the hyoid, there it is. Okay, the hyoid bone is right here. This is the hyoid. Okay, there's the hyoid. And then the skull, made up of a bunch of cranial bones. So here's the skull. Mandible. Mandible or jawbone.